Welcome to everyone who's joining in. Uh, let's see uh, I guess before I go on with this, I do want to ask, how's everyone like for two new people who've joined in? Uh, how are you all doing? And how are you guys doing with the miniseries video? Have you followed along? Do you have any problems? Anything like that?
This is my first time seeing these.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, let's see. So, have you not followed? Like, did you not see the YouTube video, or like?
Not the bug fixes video.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the bug fixes actually fixes if there's still some bugs. So if you start, first of all, the issue was I realized that I was supposed to do a 2020 project. By default it's set to 2019.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Really?
I was in 2019 the whole time. I didn't realize there were it was more glitchy when I switched to 2020, and I was like, oh, that could be problematic. So
Weird.
I fixed those.
Oh well.
But besides that, some people that were still on 2019 tried it too, and they had bugs too. So then I realized, okay, there's something else that's wrong here. And I fixed some things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so there is all the. I guess I should probably go get that. There's the like on GitHub or on like in the links. There's a link to all the code and like basically this project. So if you do have the version before the bug fixes, or if you just don't have any version at all, you can grab that, and I can show how to get that set up if you need me to.
I think it's a good idea to show them right now. Like,
okay.
Just if you go to the video.
Yeah, actually that's a good idea. Just for the sake of the video, I'll show that real quick, and then we can get back to answering questions or adding more features, because there's a handful more that are cool that again shouldn't be too.
So this Unity package that I included on the videos, right? That's based upon the project that I did. So it's literally like the same code, same things. It's really my project.
Yeah, that is what you're looking at here. Is that like I followed along, but then for this I just grabbed that to make sure that I'm on the same page. I have the same everything.
But I do recommend going through it if you haven't watched the video, and you're just like, if you just install it, you won't really understand what's going on, and it's just better if you go through the tutorial, look at what's happening, and then you can just go through that.
Yeah, there is a fair amount of code, but Nandan does break it down, and hope if there's anything else that's confusing, we can break it down more here. So in the video on YouTube, in the description, there's this link here for the Unity package. So that is, I guess I should probably show this from the top. So I'm going to close this. Let me save that. And then I'm going to make a new project. So let's see, new. And I'm going to do 2D. This is series V2. So just any new 2D project.
And how long do you think until we announce our game pitches? Just wondering.
So essentially, I'm releasing 4 videos. So introduction, bug fix, those don't really count as like the videos, but you saw like the part 1, the recast tutorial. Then once those 4 videos get released, and there's like 4 workshops essentially. So it's like 8 weeks in, or like 7 weeks in, because technically after I release the last video, we will pretty much get into the game pitch the week after.
Okay.
And it'll have its own theme that we'll announce later. that we're still talking about. Yeah. And it'll use some of the concepts that you learn from this. That's like why like all ties in. And there's other things coming up too besides that all relate.
Yeah, like, and I think part of it, like, it does seem a little weird to give less time for it, but something that tends to happen anyway is, like, usually for at least previous semesters, what I've seen is where the you know, not a lot really seems to happen until later in the semester anyway, and like, so, you know, keeping it a bit more focused keeps it from being this big long thing that, you know, it's like, oh, it's, you know, it's, we don't need to worry about it for the next 3 months or whatever. But also it's yeah, I mean, it's just like to try to keep it a bit more focused. That being said, you know, if you want to work on another game, if you want to start up another project, you're more than welcome to. We just aren't going to do the game pitch thing until a little bit later.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see, he opened the YouTube tutorial link.
Yeah, it's
in the description
here. Yeah, so then that was, let's see, that was this. So I just clicked on this thing and then did download.
Yeah.
So then that's how I grabbed it. So it's on my desktop. Now I'm just waiting. Okay, so Unity did its thing.
I think it's under assets.
Yeah, assets, and then import package, custom package. And let me go to my desktop. So wherever you downloaded it, it will be here. So then we can double click it and then
just import everything.
Yeah, just import all the things. Because all the things, reload, yes. 1, 2, and then there. It's the thing. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is with the default project, where'd it go? I need to open up the scene again. Okay, with the default project, when you move around and stuff, or you can move around and then you can jump. If you compare this to a lot of other games, like if I just tap jump, it's going to do a full jump and then come back down. This feels kind of wrong. It's just sort of this intuitive thing where you can do a little jump by just tapping the button. And it's, so that's that's one thing that we can add that isn't a ton of work. It's actually like, it seems kind of weird, but it's, you know, only going to be a couple lines of code, relatively speaking. Second off, also in a lot of games, when you, this is something you only really notice if you stare at it, but when you jump and then you come back down, usually the player comes back down much faster than they go up. They go up and then they kind of hang in the air and then they come down. So we're going to do,
sorry, I just slow in, slow out. It's one of the animation principles.
Yeah, but right now it's slow in and slow out. We want to go in slowly and then go out fast. And so those things are both tied together, because it's basically when you let go of the jump button, it just goes out faster than it would have originally.
So if you guys like saw the tutorial, I used like physics equations. So what I did technically was, if you ever read about physics anywhere, like kinematics equations or anything like that, essentially it's like a perfect parabola. So it's like a perfect arc. Like it'll be like you jump up in the same amount of time as you reach the bottom, or you move to a certain height in the same amount of time as you take to reach the bottom. So currently that's what Daniel's trying to change, because right now that's a simplistic jump. You might want that for your game, but you might want something that's like more gamey, which is like how Super Mario Bros. Feels, or other like famous games feel.
So like what we have right now is something like this. It's an even curve. What we want is something closer to this, where it has that same arc. It's kind of has this floaty feel, and then it drops quickly. And that, yeah, like Nandan was saying, it feels more gamey. It's really not realistic at all, but it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do that. And the way they do that is you have two different gravities. You have a gravity for when you're jumping, so gravity on the way up, and then when you start to fall, the gravity triples or something like that. It just goes up, and then that gives you that makes it fall faster because it's being pulled down hard. So we're gonna need. I'll do this the same way as before, just step by step.
You can change gravity to be like regular gravity, and then the falling gravity just be.
Yeah, so first of all, what I'm going to do, just to clarify things, I'm going to get rid of, like right now these are being initialized here. I'm going to get rid of that because down here in the start function, gravity and jump velocity are both already getting set. So having it set up here is kind of confusing because we're not using those values. You know, we have the equations that Nandan had for gravity and jump velocity already set up. So we're going to have gravity is going to be our effective or like our actual gravity. That's what's used by the game. But then again, we have our two other kinds of gravity. So I'm going to make two new variables then. So private float, and then let's get this out of the way. Private float, and we will do, so it'll be jumping gravity. So again, gravity on our way up, and then private float, falling gravity, and this will be gravity on the way down. So what we shall do is, right now, so we want our jumping gravity to be, or this gravity that Nandan's equation calculates, this is the gravity that we want when we're jumping, because that's what these parameters, the jump height and jump time, are tied to. So I'm going to change this to, say, jumping gravity. And then this will, oops. Likewise, our jump velocity is not based on, like when we're jumping, we use the jumping gravity. So we want to change this jumping velocity to use jumping gravity too. So these are both based on your jumping gravity. And then we will make, down below, we will calculate our falling gravity. And this is just the same gravity on the way up, except bigger. So we'll take jumping gravity and then multiply that. For now, we'll just multiply it by 3. I actually don't need the 3f, so just times 3. And then finally, let's see. I'll get to that in a second, Nandan. So by default, we want to use our falling gravity. If we walk off an edge, we should use that gravity instead of our jumping gravity. So the gravity is, we will do our falling gravity. So that will be our default. So right now, all we've done is we've just calculated 2 new gravity values. So let's go down here and use them. So just to clarify a little bit, what's inside these curly brackets, this is currently the code. This runs when we jump. So what we want is whenever, and just, getting ahead of myself, if you haven't coded much, these backslashes mean a comment. You don't need to have this in there. This is just, I'm putting this to explain it a little better. So when we jump, in addition to pushing the player up because they jumped, we also want to set gravity equal to jumping gravity. So now they're on their way up, gravity should drop. So I'm actually going to save and then go into Unity now and test this out. Let's see, actually, this is a little hard to test. Let me move the player over here. So if I walk off the edge, they fall pretty fast. And then if I jump, they have that same floatiness. And it's kind of hard to notice. It might be hard to notice on Zoom or on the video. But now that I've jumped once, when I walk off an edge, it falls slower. So if I just start this again for comparison, if I walk off an edge, it falls quickly. And then again, it's back to being slower. So what we want is for it to switch back and forth. So we'll have another check. So if, and I'll explain this in a second, velocity dot y is less than or equal to 0. So when our vertical velocity is 0 or less, then gravity, I cannot spell, gravity is falling gravity. So then when, and this, what this is doing is, like, when you're on your way up, your gravity is positive, it's above 0. And then when you hit the peak of the jump, you briefly stop and then start falling. So then in that time period, that's when it sees, oh, you've hit the peak of your jump, it's time to make you fall faster. This also applies when you land on the ground. The moment you land, your velocity is 0, you're not moving anywhere. You also want to go back to falling gravity, because if you walk off the edge later, you fall faster again. So with this check in there, and once it loads, eventually. Now, if I jump, you'll fall quicker when you on the way down. Okay, so let's see, how many people are following along? I know that Lawrence, this is all repeat for Lawrence, but anyone else keeping up? Is it working so far? I'm going to take the silence as yes. Okay, so at the moment, that is, this logic works for when, when we want to, when we're done, that makes it feel a little better on the jump, but if I just tap it, we aren't falling earlier. But this is a pretty simple tweak. What you do then is, we want to have a second check for when to increase the gravity. So we'll do OR, so that's 2 pipes. So, or 2 vertical bars, and then input dot get key up key code space. So this is either when the player hits the peak of their jump, or when the player lets go of the space bar. So that's what this get key up is checking for. Up here it's get key down. That's when you press the space bar. This is when you release it.
And feel free to set the jump key to whatever you want. I set it a space bar just because it's like a usual default type thing. But you can set it as keycode.z or keycode.x if you want z to be the jump or x to be the jump.
Huh. Wait, this is weird. It wasn't doing this earlier.
Huh. That's very strange.
Ah, this looks like a bug. Yes. Here, it's a feature now. Oh no. Let's see. Do we have the? Yeah, there's the is left and right. It wasn't doing that just early. Like when I was testing it earlier today.
Yeah, it's not happening on mine.
Huh, it stopped doing it. That's weird.
That's really strange.
Yeah, ironically, this is actually a feature I am going to add. If we do have time, another feature would be like wall climbing or wall jumping. So this is that preemptively. That feature, but bug. I guess if the Spider-Man wall climb would be a bug because spider. One thing I tend to do when I'm working on stuff like this is I have this pattern of I make it work and then I fix it. which sounds a little strange, but usually the first thing I'm trying to do is just get something to work, and then I go back and try to see where there are things I can fix. One thing, in this case, down here, I just stuck a 3 in here, which is pretty bad. You don't want to have, magic numbers unless you can help it. So I'm going to tweak this. All right, let's keep the 3 in there. I'm going to make a new like this should be something I can play with. I might want to have it so when on the way down you fall much faster than just 3 times faster. So I will do another parameter. So serialized field, private, and then float. And then let's see, falling gravity scale. I'm going to go on to the feature I was about to add before Zoom died, which was multiple jumps in the air, because you often see, double jumps. They're a pretty nice feature. It gives the player more control in the air. It just feels good. So we're going to make another property here, serialized field, private, and then instead of float, we're going to use int. So int is integer, that's a counting number. So 0, 1, 2, 3 versus floating points, which can be something like 3.5. They can be decimals or fractions. This is, we have a countable, you can't have 1.5 jumps. So this will be air jump. We'll call it max air jumps. And by default, we'll make it 1. So at 0, you have no double jumps. At 1, you have 1 double jump, and so on. Okay, so second, so we need that variable. This is how many times we can jump. We need another variable to track how many times we have jumped. So this will be another integer, and this will be called air jumps. And this will start out at 0. So we have made 0 jumps so far. Okay, so this does get a little bit like we're going to need to change some of this a little bit to keep it simple. Right now, the rule is when you're on the ground, you can jump. But now we're saying when you're on the ground or you're in the air and you have jumps remaining, you can do a double jump. But so to keep things simple, I'm going to break it down a bit. So I will make a Boolean. This is can ground jump. So this is going to be equal to is grounded. And this seems silly right now, but there's a reason for doing this. Then another Boolean can air jump. And this is equal to this will be, so we have our 2 values. We have our maximum jumps and then the jumps we've done. So as long as air jumps is less than max air jumps, we can double jump. So if we have jumped once and then the max air jumps is 1, then 1 is not less than 1. It won't work. Basically, as long as we've got jumps left, we can. And then finally, bool can jump is equal to can ground jump, or so either or we can air jump. So if one of these 2 things is true, then we're able to jump. So then this changes to can jump, can jump, can jump. So then as long as we can jump, we can do that. Now what we want to do, I'm going to do if, and then so we've jumped. Now we need to see what kind of jump we're doing. Because if you're jumping from the ground, you do not want to use up your double jump. It's only if you're jumping while you're airborne. So first, and I'll do can. So if we're, and then it's also got a bit of a priority to it. So if we can ground jump, we're just gonna jump. And then else if, so if we can't ground jump, then can we air jump? And in this case, it's always going to be true. But again, I'm going to add another kind of jump later. So this is what we we're doing a little bit of extra logic for that. So if we can air jump, we're going to again jump. I guess for now this doesn't make any sense, so I'm just going to keep this out here. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So if we let me not do things. Okay, so if we cannot ground jump, so that's what this exclamation mark is. That's inverting it. So when you cannot ground jump, then we want to say air jumps plus plus. So we're going to add one. We're counting an air jump. So if it was 0, it will become 1. So every time you jump in the air, it increments this number. And that's all the plus plus means. So with all that, so I can jump, and then if I press jump again. Okay, so at the moment it worked once. If I increase this a lot, like to 100, I can fly around. That's because I gave myself 100 jumps. But one thing, if you're following along, I might double jump and then I can't do it anymore. That's because we don't give the player jumps back. It uses them up and then they're gone forever. So what we want to do is here we will say if is grounded. So when the player's standing on the ground, then air jumps is equal to 0. So every time you touch the ground, it resets the number of times you've jumped. So then you get all of your jumps back when you touch the floor. So with this addition to the code, now I can jump again, and then did you not do it?
No, I don't think you have to run it again.
Oh, I need to save.
Oh yeah, that too.
Things don't work, check to make sure you save. Okay, so now I can double jump, and I can't jump more than twice, so it's good. And then if I walk off an edge and jump, I can jump as well. So this is, and our second jump has the exact same behavior as our first jump, where I can tap it, and then it's a smaller jump.
And there's all sorts of things you could do with this. Like if you don't want to jump when you fall, you can create a Boolean for that. Like, oh, I don't want to be able to jump at all, and to force the fall. It's because some games have that. And then you can.
Oh, you mean where you have to jump first? Like if I walk off an edge, you can't jump in the air like I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right now? Okay.
There's all sorts of that. This is just an example. I'm not saying like you're gonna do this, but I'm just saying like a lot of player controllers are dependent on what type of game you're trying to build.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, you just have to like tweak it a little bit and make sure that you can't do that when you walk off the edge.
Yeah, like really the main point of this is like just small changes that we can add to this, and these are all relatively simple. Like usually things you're doing shouldn't. I mean, once you have the groundwork of your fancy collision detection and all that, you can. That's the hard part, and then at that point you can just add on extra features like we're doing here, and you might need to tinker with it a little bit, and this is why it helps to understand what it's doing. But once you have that, you can use that to build like other kinds of platformers. You can tweak it and make it your own. Another feature that is generally nice is, and to show this, I'm going to set this to 0 briefly. In a lot of games, like this is more of a newer thing that games do, where say I'm walking up to an edge and then I want to jump at the very end. Maybe there's some gap that I'm trying to jump across. What can happen sometimes is a player might try to jump at the very edge so that they can go as far as possible, but then they do it a little bit late, and then instead of jumping, they're falling, and now they plummet to their doom or whatever, and it sucks. So what you see in a lot of games, and it's often done very subtly, so you never notice, but there's this thing they call Coyote Time, where based on from Looney Tunes, Wile E. Coyote, how he runs off an edge and he kind of floats a little bit. This is that, basically. You can run off an edge, and then for a brief moment, if you jump, it still counts it. So it's a way of being a little more lenient, so your player, it's one of those things that just feels good. Often nobody ever notices it, but without it, then you get all of these annoying, oh, I was just a little bit too late deaths and things.
I was about to bring that up, but I'm so glad you did. Like, it's
It's
and it's like literally a fraction of a second. Like the player himself, like many times doesn't notice. Like speedrunners will notice because they literally try to optimize to like the fraction of a second.
Yeah, they will notice.
The average player, they're like, oh, this feels good. Like this feels right.
Yeah, it just feels right. So adding this in is like of the features I looked at, this is probably the most complicated one to implement, but even it is not too difficult.
Are you using a timer type thing?
Yeah, this will be time based. Doing something based on like distances and stuff is more complicated. I'm not gonna no.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So again, we'll have another property. This will be private float. Since it's a thing that's a fraction, we'll use float. So this will be Coyote Time. And I'm going to make it something, I'll do 0.5. And this F is required because reasons. 0.5 is actually quite large, as we'll see, but we want it to be large at first just so that we can test it easier. So we have Coyote Time. So that's basically the grace period time. And then down here, we're going to need another variable, since what we're doing is when the player if the player runs off an edge, we want to track the moment that they leave the ground and then see how long it's been since then. So we'll have private float time, I'll call it last time on ground. So then this will track that time. So down here where we're checking if we're grounded, I will say, well, when we're on the ground, we're on the ground. So last time on ground will now be equal to time dot time. So this is the current game time. Like Unity tracks, basically keeps a clock since the game began. So that's what we're using here. And this is why I was doing all of the, all the crazy things with can ground jump and stuff, because suddenly now the rule that determines when we are on the floor is a little bit different, because we want to pretend the player is still on the floor if they've just walked off an edge. So this rule changes. So we're going to do is grounded, or and usually stuff with time always is a little confusing to me. So the current time minus last time on ground. So this is where we are now minus the time since we were on the ground. So that will get us, basically a time since we were on the ground, if we're no longer on the ground anymore. And then if that time difference is less than Coyote Time.
Less than or equal to.
Sorry?
It's less than or equal to.
Oh yeah, less than or equal to. Like in this case, it is a very small difference, but yeah, you're right. That's better. So now this this actually should be all we need to. Actually, I think that is all we need to do.
I think you have to I think you did reset it. Yeah.
like because that it resets every time we're on the ground. Oh, right. So at least to get this version of it working, this is all we need. It resets every time we're on the ground. If we're not on the ground, it stops changing this. So then the time we've been like, I'm actually gonna like for things that are always unclear, I like doing this where time minus past time on the ground. So now when we're in the game, it should be showing the time we were on the ground, or it should be showing that down here. So right now it says 0 if I walk off an edge. Let me
maybe you should make the falling gravity scale like smaller for now, just to test it.
Let's see, that's not the best. Okay, so just the bottom value. So you can see that value goes up. So well, it's pretty noticeable. So right now if I have no air jumps, air jump is 0. So if I walk off the edge and then jump, we are still able to jump. And this is why I said 0.5 is pretty big. That's a pretty noticeable fall. And wait, I do have air jumps? Wait, how do I have air jumps? Wait, turn that off. Oh, wait, that's right. Because it's so big that it looks like I can double jump.
Yeah, the Coyote time should be small.
So
yeah, what you can do is if the velocity of y is greater than 0, you don't.
Well, I do actually have a fix for that, which I'll get to in a second. But now with 0.01, it might be hard to see on Zoom, but if you play with it yourself, it should be pretty clear. You can start to fall a little bit and then you jump. And when this happens, if I have double jumps turned on, I can still double jump. It's not using that up.
Move speed like 9 or something.
Move speed 9?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like it's like that running feeling that you have in like Super Meat Boy, but Super Meat Boy also has like physics stuff, but ignoring that, it's like when you run fast and then you jump off, like that second like makes it it like
weird. I'm not sure if the things I'm doing are breaking it, but anyway, yeah. So at the moment, though, it is a little bit iffy. If you can hit the space bar really fast, you could jump multiple times possibly. So to fix that, when you successfully jump, we want to then tell it you haven't been on the ground. So this is a little bit hacky, but I'll say last time on ground is equal to 0. So we're going to say that when you do jump, then you haven't been on the ground, so you can't cheat this Coyote time system. So the easiest way to show this, just with that line in there, if I make this like really big, so 10 seconds is very long, then I can obviously jump, but if I jump oh wait, did I think I goofed something last time on ground. Wait,
it's time. No,
something is weird.
I think it should be time, right?
No, because I want it so that it seems like it's been a long time since we jumped. So actually, I will say, how about this? Mathf dot infinity dot negative infinity. So it looks like it's been a very long time since we last touched the ground. So Coyote time should not trigger for regular jumps anymore. Yeah, so now I can't. And if you see down here, it just says infinity, but that should be, oh, that makes sense, yeah. It says infinity based on the equation, but if I walk off the edge and then jump, it still works. And this is not with double jumps, this is with Coyote time. And yeah, so Coyote time. We are now the Coyote.
Change it to like 0.1 again.
Oh yeah. 0.1 I think is a pretty good value.
What did you guys add to do that again? Sorry.
No, it's fine. So inside the jump, when it does the jump, or what do you mean? Make it so that you can't abuse Coyote Time to get double jumps?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So inside the jump function, I make it so that when you jump, it says that you have not been on the ground. So then it just says last time on ground is equal to, and I'm just doing mathf dot negative infinity. You could do just any big negative number or something, like just something to make it, to trick it into thinking you haven't been on the floor, basically.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You could do like what you could literally do the Coyote Time, like negative the Coyote Time.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, negative. Since the
Yeah, that's actually probably better because
it's better.
It'll be literally the exact amount of time.
Yeah, because when you start the game, time.time is 0, and then it moves forward. So with this, then even at time.time being 0, when the game time is 0, negative Coyote Time will put you before, before you could ever, like you can't ever go at that point. So this is probably a more reasonable.
Since
option.
It's less than or equal to, then you might have to do less than or something.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. No one's going to be jumping at frame 0. I mean, if you are and you can somehow abuse that to break the game, good for
deserve to.
Yeah, good for you.
Master speedrunners.
frame perfect.
Yes.
You want to include nuggets of content for your speedrunners.
I'm doing this for the speedrunning community. This is meant for you guys.
Frame perfect jumps. You know?
Yes. Frame perfect. So that is Coyote Time. So I'm going to right click, rename. I'll call this platformer controller. So I'm going to rename it that. And then Visual Studio is going to forget what it is. And if I go check the player, it's going to also, it's very concerned because it's like, I can't load this anymore. So I'm going to double click on that, get Unity to crash again.
Wait, you can just change the class name. That's what I did last time. It worked.
So, I mean, yes, but what do you mean? Change it inside Visual Studio?
Yeah.
So when I do that, then Unity forgets what, or if you change it in Visual Studio, what happens for me is then Unity forgets what the, what object or what script it is. So I need to rename it first in Unity, and then I can change it in.
Yeah, I do both. Like I rename it in Unity and in.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean that's all I'm doing is you rename it in Unity, and then you go into Visual Studio and make the name match, and it will work. Doing that. I wish it was a little more streamlined than that, but in this case we're renaming it because it's going to become just a platformer controller, and then we'll have a player, like a player input.
Or, oh, okay.
Like it will just, like, player input's going to be pretty small. It's just going to call functions on platformer controller, and in that way, instead of player input, I can have AI brain or whatever, and that calls the same functions. Okay, so this is loaded. Has it done it? Okay. Is renaming working on your end? Because I know that for me, it's always been a.
Oh, okay. So I should also do this. I wasn't sure.
If you want to, yeah. Sure.
I think it's probably a good idea because this is no longer the player controller. It's just for platformer things. So, this is where all of the physics is going.
So then in the script itself, I changed the class, right? Public class?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Public class is the match. And this is something that's good generally just to know how to do anyway, because
Okay.
renaming things is useful and a pain.
Yeah. Let me see if that worked out.
Yeah, you'll know if it. Well, I mean, entering play mode is one way. Also, if you go down here, like if I intentionally break this, then Unity will report that, the associated script cannot be loaded. It will do that if it's broken. So.
Okay, hold on. Did I spell platformer correct? my typing is very, very poor.
Interesting.
So
No, it's fine. My typing has been subpar today too. That's interesting. For some reason, it still calls it player controller. I've never had that happen before.
Do you have like okay? So
interesting.
okay. It says associate script cannot be loaded.
Hmm.
Hold on. Let me try and reload it again. Did I save?
Yeah. Oh well, you might need to once you rename it in Unity, you may need to go into the script, or you may need to open up the correct script inside Visual Studio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm still under player controller. Okay, that makes more sense. Oh, okay. Then I changed this one to platformer controller.
Yes.
Okay. Platformer. Dope.
So what I do, Daniel, is just like I double click but slowly to change the name.
Yeah.
And then once I change it, I just go to the script and change the name there, and then I just save it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can also F2 to rename.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Do I?
Let's see. Is it exploding on you? Because...
There's just like I just got like a million reds. Hold on. That's a bit scary.
Can you share your screen? And then it'll be.
Yeah. Let me.
Understand.
Oh, says
you have to enable.
Just a second. I need to give permission. Okay, you should be able to share now.
Cool. Okay. So it says platformer controller already defines a member called. It's basically like saying that all of like the checks, starts, updates, and set bounds are all messed up.
Let's see. Oh, so you still have a player controller script.
Yeah, I opened up this one after I realized what I did wrong.
Yeah, so the player controller script still exists. So
should I just delete it?
Try deleting it, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Let me delete.
Because it looked like it had the same name. So then Unity saw two classes with the same name. So it was like, wait, this is...
Oh, okay. This might be... Okay, yeah. Let me try. Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. It's working again. All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me stop
renaming
share.
things is a pain. It is a pain, but like, I have my whole thing of where I'm like, I'll make it and then I'll fix it. So often that means tearing stuff up into different files and stuff. So I think it's a good thing to get used to doing is renaming stuff, because it happens. It's a pain, but okay. So we have this. We're gonna also need to make a second script. So inside scripts, right click, create C# script. So I'll call this player input.
Player input. Okay, let me do that.
Oh, it didn't crash. I was super expecting Unity to crash when I double clicked on it. Okay, so Nandan has his namespace for CPP Game Dev Club. So I'm going to do that here. So namespace club. So if you use a different namespace, so let me know when you're caught up to...
Okay, so namespace.
You can name whatever namespace you want. So I set it as CPB Game Dev Club.
It just should be whatever you have the platformer controller.
Okay.
contained in.
And this is like technically optional because the namespace is just there to like title it so that you know, oh, it's mine. You know, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, and when we're using generic names like player input and platformer controller, if we imported somebody else's code, it might have the same name. So,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
it stops that from being a problem. Okay, so first off, what we're gonna do is make it so that instead of having all the input code in here, is platformer controller just has functions that player input can call. So I guess first we'll want to let's set this up first. So in the platformer controller, basically anywhere where we have
Get input
is something we're going to want to tweak. So this does mean we're going to be breaking stuff up a little bit. So instead of having all this, basically most of the stuff in update is going to have to change a little bit. So first, let's make a public, and this has to be public because we're calling it from another script. We'll do public move. Let's see. We'll call these input. So move input, and then float x. So this receives a movement input. Oh, whoops. It should be public void move input. There we go. Let's see, we've got moving and we've got jumping. So we need all of those. So let's make all these functions first. So public void jump, we'll just call it jump. And then we'll make one more script of function public void end jump. Since this is another thing, like if we look back down at our update script or function, we check to see when you hit space, but also we check to see when you let go of space. So we need to have both of those events. So we have to have an end jump as well.
Okay.
So let's see. What we will do is, so we want to take this velocity x line here. There's two ways to go about this. I think I'll do it the way that I'm more sure will work. So we will need to make variables to track each of the things that the player is trying to do. So up here, I guess below all these other variables, I will say private float input x, and that will be 0 initially. Private bool input jump, and that will be false. So by default, we're not trying to jump. Private bool input and jump. So this basically just correlates with everything we've made, or all of the functions we made. And then inside move input, we will just set input x equal to x. And like these are all going to be pretty simple then.
Okay.
Jump, let's see, input jump will be jump, or no, will be true because we're jumping. And then same here, input and jump.
We should probably set jump to be false when you end the jump.
So what I'm going to do then is an update every frame. It's going to reset all of these things. So I guess, yeah, we should probably make a function for that. I'll do private, and it's a little, I would reorder these functions at some point, but that's fine. We don't need to worry about that. I don't want to go too much over the time I originally planned. Private void reset input. So this will just reset all of our input parameters. So input x is equal to 0, input jump equal false, input end jump equals false. So then this will just get called every frame whenever, just to reset everything that we've so basically then we have all these three parameters or three variables, and every time we check for input, we're just going to go see what those are. So first we have our input get key down. So instead we're going to change we're going to select all of that and change it to input jump. And then we're going to do it again. So again, where we have input dot key up, we're going to change this to input and jump. And then finally for x velocity, we're going to change this to move. It's input x. And I know this all seems kind of like a hassle, but it will become, I think,
probably worth it in the long run.
Yeah, it will become very, very convenient later. So we've essentially gutted all of our input stuff, which, so now if we were to go in play mode, it wouldn't move at all, which is fine. That's what we expect here. So now we'll go do player input, which is.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So I'm gonna delete everything in player input.
So do we no longer need void start?
Oh, in which one? Oh, for player input, yeah.
Player
we
input.
don't need it there. We do need it in platformer controller. Like most of the logic that was going on in platformer controller was happening. That's already been physics and stuff. So we don't need to. This is actually not changing too much.
Okay.
It's just every time we talk to input.
Okay.
Oh, right. I did forget something in platform controller. At the end of updates, so at the end of the frame, once we use all of our input, we want to reset it. So we will do, I wrote that reset input function. We just want to call that at the end. Okay.
Reset input.
All right, sorry, I've been jumping around a little bit.
No worries.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, are we good to move on then?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So now back in player input, we want to, first off, we want to have a reference to the platformer controller. So we will do serialized field, since this is something that we can drag in Unity, and say private platformer controller. So this is going to be a reference to the thing we've been making. And we will call this, I guess, controller. I don't really know what else to call it.
Yeah, that works.
And then inside our update function, we'll do controller dot. Just to show, if I do controller dot, and then I can start doing input, or I can say move x, or let's see. Oh wait, is that public? But okay, yeah, we want the move input. So if I do controller dot move input here, then I can. In this case, let's see, we want to use that input dot get axis, or get axis raw horizontal, I think.
Yeah.
So that would be moving left and right, and then controller dot jump.
Well, we want, yeah.
I probably should have called it jump input, but whatever.
That's fine.
And then this will be
Get key down, right?
we were using get key. I'm actually going to switch to, I'm going to use
Button?
get button.
Yeah.
So get button down. And then instead of saying space, I'm just going to say jump.
Jump, yeah.
Because Unity comes with a jump keybind.
What is it for the keyboard? You can check that.
It's spacebar by default.
It's spacebar. Okay.
Oh, whoops. Wait. I mixed this up. Well,
wait, you can do if input get button down jump, then
yeah. I was thinking of changing how this is written, so instead you pass in a Boolean, but
just do this. It's probably better.
Yeah, let's just do. Yeah, this is easier for when we get to doing AI anyway. So if input dot get button down jumpo, and then inside of that, so inside the curly brackets, we'll do controller dot jump. Then we'll, if the player isn't pressing down the button, we'll do input dot get button up. So input dot get button up, and then again we'll do jump. Controller dot end jump. Okay.
Just pause there for a second.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause.
Let everything.
Just curious. How do you do? What add-on is it that like lets you see all of like the stuff that you could do in Unity? Like there's like this purple thing that shows up. Yeah, or like that stuff.
So that's something called IntelliSense. It's part of Visual Studio, but it doesn't work if you like you need to have the Unity tools set up. So if it's not like it should show up by default on your end, but if it's not, it's I can post some stuff on the Discord about that.
Okay.
Basically, I think it's, or actually I can show it in a second. Yeah, I can show that in a second. It's relevant. But let's see.
It's okay. You could we could just continue with this, and then I'll go.
Okay. Well, there's something I can.
I'll type it. IntelliSense Unity. Just Google that, and there should be tons of.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That's true.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Yeah, there's been other people with problems where it doesn't work. It can be finicky, but it is very convenient. Okay, so let's see. Are we all good? Because I think this should be all we need to do for code.
Yeah, probably. I don't know what you changed in the platformer controller because I left
you weren't here.
But
basically, there were variables for what inputs we're getting, and then these functions tweak those. And then instead of checking the input directly, we check those variables.
Yeah.
So input jump, input and jump, and then the input X. And then at the end, we reset input. So if we stop getting input for something, it, doesn't remember that, basically. Like it resets every frame.
Yeah.
And then every frame inside the platformer control, in the player input component, it sets this stuff, or it calls these functions.
Let's test it.
So we can't test it quite yet. We need to go over to player, and then let's drag in player input. So I'm going to stick this right below. And then I need to drag in the reference to the platformer controller. So drag and drop. And there we go. So with that set up, now it's still works, even though the input code is not in there anymore. Okay, so let's see. Is it working on your end, Lawrence? Or?
For the controller, do I plug in the script?
Yeah. So what you do is you
drag it from the player controller.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is one thing that is really helpful when breaking stuff down. Is you can have components refer to each other.
Okay.
and that way you can tear stuff apart and things.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So now all that should work. So far we've done all this work and we haven't actually done anything, it seems. But here's where it gets kind of cool. I'm gonna move this. So inside scripts, I'm going to right click and then yeah, I'll fix that later. I will right click and then create and then C# script. And I will call this AI, let's see. I don't know. I'll just call it enemy input. This isn't gonna really behave like an enemy, but I'm just gonna call it an enemy for now. So now if I open up this new script, to keep things simple, I'm just gonna select everything inside player input and copy it. So when you do that, we do need to update the name. Let's see, sorry, I don't want to move too fast, but also I don't want the, let's see. Okay, are you good so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So instead of doing all this input stuff here, I'm just going to do something really simple where instead of using input.getAccessRaw, I'll just say a 1. So this should correspond to moving to the right. So this will just be an AI that walks right all the time.
Oh, okay. And then we just, okay.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do, rather than remaking the player and everything, I'm going to select the player up here and then do Control-D. And that will make a duplicate. That will duplicate the, oh, right. I think Nandan already showed this in the video, but that's how you duplicate things. I'm going to rename this to enemy. And I will move him over to the left. So like on something. This will, yeah, okay. I'll put it up there, and then just to keep things simple, I'm gonna change his color to like red.
Oh, okay, so this is so the inputs are just like a way for it so that you can have universal rules for all the characters. Okay.
Yeah.
So input is there so that you can move the player, and then the player or the platform or controller can control both player and enemies.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. And really quick, so I forgot this thing. On the enemy, we need to remove the player input script, and then drag in our enemy input. And same as before, you need to give it the reference to the platform or controller. And then with all of this, we should have a dumb enemy that just walks to the right.
Yeah.
All right, let me add it. Add input.
And at the moment, the system is not set up to actually detect other characters.
Well, technically it is. You have to set the layer mask. That's all you have to do.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, wait, I might be able to do. Well, let's see. I would need to.
You have to change the layer of the enemy to an enemy's layer.
Yeah.
So exactly whatever you want to collide with, just add more.
Let me do this real quick just to see if it works.
But yeah, you can change the tag too.
Well, yeah, and I might as well change the tag too. Why is the player has no layer? Wait. Oh, because I made a new thing. Right.
The Unity package doesn't. Okay.
Yeah, it might be better just to have an entire object or an entire project to download.
Yeah. I only did that because projects they have taken like upwards of an hour for me to download sometimes, depending on the size.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it's probably better to do the project.
What?
In hindsight. The enemy probably look at what the enemy's layer mask is.
Oh, the enemy's layer mask is
enemy for some reason.
Enemy. Yeah, okay. I assume it needs to be default, right?
Yeah. So, well, no. Well, yes, but no. Yes, but actually no. Like, I set a platform layer as well. That's why.
Oh wait. Oh, you made a platform layer. So these are. Okay, so I need to do that.
Yeah, I add like a bunch of layers
Okay.
for reasons.
So all of these are platform. Yeah, and so what happened was the enemy detected itself and thought it was colliding with itself. So it pushed itself basically to the moon. It was ejected.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want it so that the enemy only detects. I'm gonna make it so the enemy detects platforms and
the player.
players.
Yeah.
And then the player detects these three things. So default, enemy, and platform.
I just made the player detect the player.
Yeah, you can see what happens. It's interesting.
So now okay, cool. So that works. So with the layers set correctly, I can't go through this enemy. There are ways to make it so that you can make it so that the ray and this does make it more complex, but you can make it so that the rays ignore the objects sending it out. So if you want to have multiple enemies all on the enemy layer, you can have it, and you want them colliding with each other, but not themselves. There's ways to do that. You have to raycast all to do it. Right now, if I had multiple enemies, they would. He escaped.
Oh no! Rest in Red Block 2021 to 2021.
You probably generally what happens is you want to switch the movement, so it was probably accumulating all that movement or something.
I don't think so. I think it probably has to do with something with the because there's some amount of stuff with time.delta time and stuff, with it might have problems, say, if it lags and then the rays like the rays will get longer. It has to raycast further to when I don't know. It's possible there might be some weird jankiness going on there. I really don't know. I will play with that later. But yeah, let's see. I'm kind of curious, while we're on the topic of AI, I'm going to do something that's a little bit meh, but I'm going to make all of these public. So is grounded, is above, is left, so on. This way our AI can check these things. So what I'm going to say is inside the AI, private float direction. And this will be 1 by default.
So Daniel, I think I have to go because I have a group meeting, but okay. I will.
Yeah, this will be pretty quick. I just want to make it so that the enemy, when they hit a wall, they turn around.
Should I also try doing this, or
it's up to you? Yeah.
Okay.
This is you have to do some shenanigans with this to make it you need to make this public inside the controller so that other if it's private, nobody else can see it.
Okay.
So what I will do is have, instead for update, I'll have it so that it uses the direction. And then in the controller, we'll do, let's see, in enemy input, if controller dot, I think is, yeah, okay. So is left, or, so the pipes again, controller dot is right. Then we will just say direction is direction is equal to negative direction. So if we were traveling right, then we're going to travel left instead. If we're traveling left, we will travel right instead. So now every time we bump things, we should change directions.
Oh, okay, cool.
So this is still extremely simple, extremely dumb. It didn't even work.
Oh, he bouncing though. Mine is very just a little shiver.
That's so weird.
Yeah. It's very minimal, but it's still something I'm noticing. Or maybe that's my eyes. I doubt it's my eyes though.
I think that's correct. Again, input is weird.
Oh yeah, it's I'm looking at the oh wait, never mind. No, that's the player. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. I think when we call move, it does all the checks. Okay. So it should be, what might be happening, I don't know. When I'm not sure of things, I just print them. So controller dot is right. Actually, let's print both. You don't need to do this part. I'm just, like, in general, when things don't work, I just print them out. And then, like, this is my way of sleuthing, and because otherwise you're just in the dark. That does nobody any good. Oops. So, okay. So it is changing direction. So this might, I guess this must have been what you're talking about. It's changing direction, but then it flips to the other direction the moment it. Okay, so we need it so that when it hits on the right, it needs to be a little bit smarter than this. So is left. So if it hits from the left, we want to go to the right. So make this 1. And then else if controller dot is right, direction equal to -1. I think this should work, hopefully. But then again, the way that it was flipping there might.
So direction should be -1?
Yeah, -1 will make it go to the left. So when you hit on the right, okay, there we go. So it should actually stop when it hits us too. Yeah, okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, it's a thing that moves. I remember when I was a little kid playing with this stuff, like I didn't do any of the input stuff, but the first time I was playing around in the engine and I got a computer controlled thing to move around, I'd like freaked out.
Nice.
This takes me back to that a little bit, but yeah, so that's the whole idea for breaking it up into 2 pieces, because now we can do all this pretty easily.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you for doing this, like the workshops and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for coming and sticking through it and stuff, because yeah, this is like Nandan had said this earlier, but I'm kind of in the same boat where there's a lot of stuff that's just not explained, and so I don't know. Yeah, hopefully this is helpful for people.
Yeah, definitely is.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Give us any suggestions down in the comments below, and we'll try and cover them in the future videos. See you in the next one.